Hello everyone and welcome to this latest video discussion as part of the RICS Tech Partner Programme. My name is Andrew Knight and I've been working with RICS now for nearly 14 years. I sit within our thought leadership and analytics part of the organisation, and my role is to look at the effect of AI, data and technology right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 qualified members working worldwide, right across that property life cycle, whether that's land use, planning development, construction, brokerage, valuation, building surveying, building management. It really is a very broad canvas upon which AI and data and tech are having an increasingly profound effect. And indeed, our members work across all the major asset types, whether that's land itself, residential, commercial, alternative assets and infrastructure. And I'm really pleased today to have Bola and Patrick from AIQS joining me. So welcome to the call. And I guess, Bola, I'd like to start with you perhaps, and really from a kind of backstory perspective, really get you to explain the whole kind of concept of PQS 2030 and the origin story of AIQS.
Yes. Thanks, Andrew. And welcome to all of those on the call or viewing this at their leisure. So PQS 2030 was my challenge to the QS. Started back in 1993 during my first degree. My final year thesis was touched the topic of artificial neural networks and hypertext expert systems in the field of claims management. And the idea was to build a system that thought like a QS, acted like a lawyer, and could create a very affordable product for small builders who fell into dispute with their clients. That was 93, 94. Came into the industry as a graduate surveyor for Franklin and Andrews in London, thought the world was ready for artificial neural networks and machine learning back in 94. What was I thinking? Qualified in 99, still no joy. 4 years later, set up AIQS as a co-pilot for the QS initially to take away the mundane tasks. That was 2003. And all of my conversations, including the amazing conversation I had with RICS back then, was not sure we're ready for it, but keep going. 22 years later, on the back of ChatGPT becoming a phenomenon 2 years ago, the business case was validated and the role of AI, particularly in professional services, became a thing. So we're here in 2025, 22 years later, celebrating what was just an idea, but had a real valid use case 22 years ago.
So Patrick, I mean, in a kind of brief sort of synopsis, what is the AIQS platform and how does it work, and what are the technical requirements to use it?
Yeah, so the AIQS platform, it's a data-driven digital twin platform that consolidates multiple data sets that normally sit in silos, and it then unifies that into a reporting environment. And the idea is that it will enhance the decision-making process and project management through real-time analytics. So when we start to think about cost reporting, risk management, program management, quality outputs, and social value measurements, this will allow predictive insights for the clients. And our AI functionality allows clients to interact with their data in a way that's not been available to them in the past. The way the platform functions is that it's created in a way that clients can upload legacy data, that the data can be uploaded in its native formats. Our AI agents will extract that data and then start to structure it within the platform that populates the databases and in return populates the dashboard functionality. As a cloud-based platform, it removes the challenges that some organizations would have in terms of installing it on local systems. We can connect in through APIs into other solutions that might be deployed on projects to capture certain data sets. And it's just a way of, I suppose, collecting all the data from these silos and centralizing it, which we see as a major blocker and challenge that clients face in today's in the industry.
Indeed. And I guess one thing that, my introduction when I, start these video discussions, I always make that point around the whole kind of life cycle of how our members operate. And I guess one thing I'm really interested to understand from both of you is how you see AI specifically bridging these gaps, because we talk about the various disciplines over the whole kind of life cycle, and clearly with things like the Building Safety Act in the UK and also the focus on sustainability and both embodied and whole life carbon, we need to think about this more integrated and efficient life cycle for buildings and infrastructure, right through design, construction, operation, and indeed end of life. How do you see AI helping to sort of bridge these gaps between these siloed disciplines and these siloed data sets, which is, I guess, for me, one of the biggest challenges we face with the built environment?
It's a great question, and I think even if we look over the last 10 or 15 years, we can see that the sheer volume of information that's being produced on a given project has increased dramatically. And we're nearly at the point within the industry where it's becoming nearly impossible to, one, manage the volume of information, two, actually absorb all the content of that information that's being produced through design and delivery. And I think the real added value of AI is being able to take all those siloed data sets that are either structured or unstructured and build those relationships through the design delivery of that, and being able to facilitate the client to make more informed decisions like we would do using other AI tools. At the moment, it's been a good launch into the way that we need to manage data through the life cycle of a building. And I think the challenge that we're seeing our clients face is the benchmarking functionality when it comes to life cycle management. Because the question that everyone wants to answer is, how good is our assets? And I think with the AI capability to be able to bring in all the legacy data, bring in design, construction data, bring in asset management data into that equation will potentially give clients better insight into how assets are performing, understanding the risks associated with the assets, and potentially providing business insights into what needs to happen and what the right decisions might be. And using AI can only facilitate that in a world where we're very data driven and information heavy.
So I mean, but practically in terms of what AI can do, I mean, we have these silos not only within the disciplines and the different stakeholders, but arguably we have silos even within companies, even within an individual stakeholder. And I'm always very mindful, not just in the construction phase, but more broadly, that so much of the data that we've already got on assets, albeit we have gaps, is still effectively paper, because it may be a PDF or a Word document, or dare I say, it may be one person's Excel spreadsheet. We have this really unstructured, often paper-driven type data. Where practically, in terms of nuts and bolts, do you see AI helping with that kind of amalgamation of data to make it more useful and turn data into information?
That's a great question. So what we've had to do within the AI QS platform was that we've built an AI agent, and you can build similar agents using Office 365 that can read the PDF data that you would have legacy or that you're currently producing within the different departments. And the AI agent then has the ability to extract that data from tables within PDFs, key data sets within PDF documents, Excel files. They can extract all the data from those as well, and start then to structure that within databases. Now, once you have your data in a database, and a database is pretty much, in simple terms, an Excel table. If we just were to make it in plain language, then you have the ability to model that data, to look at key outcomes, to look at if you wanted to compare project A against project B, to see what the key trends are, what the key differences are in terms of outcomes. You can then start to make better informed decisions by using that. And AI can really simplify that process by extracting the data that can become user friendly and allow you to make allow you to model it in a way that you need to understand it and communicate it in a very simple way.
So, Bola, coming to you, I mean, do you think that the general trend towards digital technology in the UK will accelerate the use of AI? Because obviously there are, the day-to-day activities of a PQS or the contractor side QS are, dare I say, quite traditional in some respects. But do you see there really going to be a step change in how digitization and AI affects those roles in the coming couple of years, say?
I think, I know you're going to be asking some great questions. That's another great question. And to be honest with you, I've got to say that within the next 2 to 5 years, there will be a material change in the way that we deliver the service as cost managers or quantity surveyors. For us, the Trojan horse has been the presence of the Building Safety Act and the legal requirement for the golden thread, right? And so by definition, the fact that the golden thread has to be created and maintained in a digital format. For us, linking that legal requirement to the notion of the digital twin, and by that we mean a virtual representation of a system, asset, or process, in this case, either process or assets, there is no choice for the profession now but to step up to the challenge and think about their own journey of evolution regarding digital transformation, but specifically using AI to make that easier, scalable, more efficient, more transparent, more accountable, and to release the traditional professional from the mundane elements to go on and become more of an advisor, right? This is where value has to come to life. And I think AI, it's almost a game changer and a leveler. It's not really about the size of your business. It's about how your business uses AI to become more, I would say, to increase your competitive advantage, right? If you want to make it very simple in the space of what it's going to do for the business. But at a person level, there is no choice now but to figure out how you can better engage with AI to become a better professional, right? And that's what excites us. And I think there's less of a choice now. It's really, when are you going to begin your journey, and how are you going to influence your business, and how are you going to create value for your client? And as Patrick has said, we're using agentic AI to kind of move into that space and release the lack of clarity regarding legacy data. All of this paper, PDF, has got to become intelligent, and AI is going to help us. It's going to help us do that.
And I guess it's easy to to focus when we talk about the role of the PQS or the contractor QS around the kind of the cost issue, but I'm always mindful about the management of risk in projects. I mean, do you also see AI playing a significant role in de-risking projects, which clearly is on many people's mind and bedevils so many projects, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Patrick and I have this conversation all the time about how can we better bring risks um, to visualization, right? How can you better evidence the risk on a project? And using the digital twin as a process is obviously there, but to be able to simulate and predict risk, that's where it gets exciting. AI has a role to play in that space. And I think um, by virtue of the fact that business models are changing, whether you're a contractor, consultant, product manufacturer, your business model has to change to accommodate AI. And clients, I call this the era of the intelligent client. They're going to start asking more searching questions of their design teams because they can, right? They can be bold in that with their ask. And we now have to reciprocate and say, actually, yeah, it's possible. And we've got a process in which we can do that. But, de-risking projects, whether it's from a time, cost, quality perspective, is so essential now, anywhere and everywhere on the globe. You've really got no choice but to step up and create that value. And if we don't do it, someone else will try and do it. So this is also about preservation in many ways, right? But we've got to evolve and de-risking a project into pounds and pence or dollars and dimes. I mean, it's just the way to go. I mean, we're so excited about it, honestly. It's crazy.
Now, you've obviously mentioned that the Golden Thread, the Building Safety Act in the UK, as being a real driver here. I mean,
Yeah.
is there a danger that, ironically, the sector might effectively consider that once they've kind of, quote, fixed that particular issue, they don't address this broader digitization and AI agenda, because that there is this sense that perhaps, yes, compartmentalize that, fix that, tick in the box. Is there a danger that we miss the bigger opportunity to look at the way we really manage projects from birth till death in that way?
Well, I think because the golden thread is for life, the golden thread never ends, right? It starts in planning, goes all the way through design, into construction, and then the real value is in operations. So the golden thread is perpetual. You just need to figure out where you start or end your journey, but it never ends. So you got to figure out your value contribution to it. So, it's a completely different way of thinking, Andrew. Traditionally we deliver a job for a client at practical completion, we say bye. 12 months after we do defects liability, we release second warranty retention, job's done. Now, you could argue our job begins at the end of practical completion to stay close to the client and allow them to figure out how they can optimize the asset that we just built. So there are so many other value propositions coming out of this, and AI has a real role to play to bring all of that data to life in an intelligent way.
I'd like to pivot to a kind of a skills job question, and it's become, I guess, a cliche in lots of sectors to sort of almost shout fire in a crowded cinema and think about the implications on the number of jobs, the number of roles. And ironically, from a number of kind of conversations I've had and some stuff that's in the public domain from one of the large property consultancy firms, that they made the point that actually, and this is something that resonates with me, having been at RICS for so many years, is that we always seem to be short of skilled people. And so my sense is that actually the kind of productivity gains we can see with AI aren't going to mean that we're going to need less people. We simply can perhaps address some of the skills shortages by being more productive and have these co-pilots. I mean, what's your view on the kind of impact on skills and job roles? And will this be a golden opportunity almost to do a better service to society, because we will now have the right number of people with a more productive tool set?
I don't want to steal Patrick's thunder. We have these conversations so often, Andrew. And Patrick, what do you think, buddy? Skills and productivity.
So I think AI, what AI potentially will do, it can potentially remove a lot of the admin overhead time that we spend, and let us focus more on the primary roles that we're appointed to do. I think where AI has great potential is that it will bring in a new wave of disciplines into the industry, a different way of thinking about information. Because what we need to start to think about, and it comes back to the previous point, is we don't want the golden thread to sit in isolation to everything else for the greater good. I think they all are interlocked as a golden thread. I think there's roles and opportunities there in terms of leveraging AI to streamline certain processes that allows us to make better decisions within our disciplines. I think it's like every generation, the way that they learn to do a role is always enhanced by technology. So if we went back 50 years, architects and QSs were learning their roles with drawn boards and red pens, and then technology came on board. People were learning how to use AutoCAD, learning how to use Excel, and now fast forward to 2025, where it's going to be very AI driven in terms of facilitating our roles and enhancing our outcomes. I think that's where AI will be extremely powerful, is that while we're educating and upskilling, that the tools will start to take on the overhead works that we normally would need to resource down the food chain that doesn't currently exist right now.
So I've still got my scale rule. I dare say I don't use it often, but I've still got it. And in actual fact, there's a thing, right? Who can still use a scale rule, right? Like you said, Andrew, if they pull the plug on Excel for the QS, we'll have to default back to being able to measure paper drawings, right? But 50% of my day job is obviously founder and CEO of AIQS, but the other half of my role is Chief Excitement Officer at the Digital Twin Skills Academy. Now that's where we're taking this challenge, Andrew, head on, and we're actually trying to figure out what is the skill set required moving forward for the digital cost manager, right? And it will be less about whether they can physically measure and quantify built assets from drawings, and it will be more about their knowledge of construction, believe it or not. How do buildings get built, right? That's the big ticket item for us. AI has a role to play there in terms of teaching and training using EdTech, but it's that intergenerational piece. Many people don't have the experience, site-based experience. They might have professional and academic experience. We want to blend all of that together so that the knowledge around the construction process becomes more prominent. And then using AI, we can make it person-centric, and that's where you unlock the value. So for us, the skills challenge, it really dictates that everybody has to understand what they don't know and be honest about what they don't know so that they can plug that gap of knowledge and excel.
But I suppose hopefully that chimes with a theme that I often talk about, which is that we still need people who have really profound and deep understanding, as you say, of construction of the built environment, to really be the professional skeptic to make sure that AI is giving them the right advice and giving them the right output. Because I do worry there's a danger that we kind of de-skill the next generation in a way that means that they don't have that skill set to really look at the output of AI and be that critical analytical thinker and say, yeah, this is the correct output, this model is doing what I want it to do, and this is something that can be built, and these are the right kind of quantities. Because I suppose there is that danger that we do sort of de-skill the next generation.
100%. I think what we got to think about with AI, it's an assistant to help you carry out your role that it shouldn't be solely relied upon. Because one, I don't think the insurance industry is ready for that. I don't think as an industry, we're ready to let AI make the key business decisions without it being reviewed. I think that will come in time as it grows and evolves. I think AI will potentially become, you know, virtual versions of ourselves by the way we interact with it. So we'll start to think, process data like we would in time. I think the challenges with that is the evolution of regulations and changes in standards and requirements. You know, its ability to interact with them as new versions are updated and changed. So I don't think AI will replace that experience and that knowledge that's needed at a personal level, professional level within the QS industry, the wider design and build industry. I think it's a tool that will enhance and facilitate a process in getting from A to B in a more efficient way.
Agreed. And it's funny, Andrew. I'm sitting here, ironically, RICS HQ in London in the Waterloo room, right? And I've already bumped into a QS who asked me the question, "What's this AI QS thing?" And we got into a conversation. The one question that popped out, Andrew, was, "Are you going to kill the profession?" Do you know what? I wouldn't dare, but I am going to disrupt it. I am going to disrupt it. But it's
very
not
brave.
It's not about taking jobs. It's about recognizing that this is a paradigm shift. You know, we have, essentially the QS has done the same thing for 157 years. Really, the same thing, the same way. And yet, all of the revolutions, industrial revolution, digital revolution, has happened, and our role or value proposition hasn't really changed. AI is going to force a new business model, and in actual fact, it's been captured in the cost prediction professional standard. There's an organogram that talks about an API data driven business model, and that technically is PQS 2030. The real question is, Andrew, how many of our QS professionals are ready for it?
Well,
that's the challenge, that cultural piece.
I guess that's our cultural challenge to make sure we do that. I mean, do you think there's an opportunity with the recent, I'll call it rhetoric, not in a pejorative sense, but obviously the UK government, very keen to, certainly within the public sector, increase productivity and get the gains from AI. Do you think there's an opportunity for your vision of PQS 2030 to latch onto that and get the sector to take that as a lead from government, to say, actually, this is for every sector, private, public, etc.?
Absolutely. I was so excited when Sir Keir Starmer made the announcement, right? Patrick and I had a bun fight. We're like, this is great. Now we've got the business case validity. There's the rubber stamp. Was it just hot air, or how on earth are they going to do it? And I think it's going to come down to sectors. But for me, as a chartered QS, I would definitely say that if the government is going to get behind the AI bandwagon, for want of a better word, there is clearly an opportunity to think about how we revisit our business proposition to the client, to the public, and do it in a way that, for me personally, demonstrates that the tragedy of Grenfell can be fixed and we can do better. And we can, if we have to use AI to be better, we use AI, right? But it's about improving what we do, not replacing what we do. That's the real point. It's a co-pilot, right? It's got to be considered as part of your toolkit. And you've got to be brave and bold enough to embrace it. And a lot of our profession are stuck in the traditional world, which is fine. There's a role for that. But for people like Patrick and myself, we want to lead by example and just show that it's possible and create the value with a business model that's agile enough to flex according to all the different demands that are coming on stream.
Sorry, just on Bola's point there, I think what the government have come out and announced about AI businesses was extremely exciting for us to hear, because one of the drivers for AIQS is to support the public sector client base and being able to bring in all of that data using the AI functionality to take in the legacy data, to take in the siloed data, allow them to start to model that into reporting functions, and then internally being able to use the AI agents to be able to analyze the data that allows them to extract what they need to measure their outcomes as a public sector body. And for the first time, being able to centralize all of that data for them to actually have complete ownership over their data. And that's the biggest challenge for the public sector clients, is the ownership of their data and being able to model that data and to understand it. And we're really excited about the possibilities of AI to facilitate that. And I think that's, for me, if I was a public sector body, that would excite me too, because for once we can actually get all our legacy data into a centralized place, be able to model it with this assistant of AI, where we are struggling with resources, we're struggling with turnover in staff members and delivery and design, all of those challenges that we face, that AI can start to work in the background to support us as a council, as a borough, and as a government.
Indeed. I'm conscious that a lot of our conversation has quite understandably been sort of slightly UK-centric, certainly playing on things like the Golden Thread, Building Safety Act, etc. But I'm also interested to hear from both of you your kind of perception of how other markets differ. I mean, I know, for example, that I hear anecdotally North America doesn't adopt BIM as strongly as we do in the UK, and as you both know, even the phrase quantity surveyor doesn't travel well in terms of people recognising that as a tag for that particular job role. So I mean, what's your sense of the international landscape of digitization, and I guess also what does that mean for you in your focus in terms of taking AI QS to market?
Oh no! So that's the one that's gonna put a smile on my face. That's the question I've been waiting for. So I mean, look, in simple terms, though, Andrew, my journey of exploration around the North American market in particular began in 2000, right? And in 2000, when I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia, I was called an estimator. I was asked the question, "Are you an estimator?" And I'm like, "Yeah, in part, but that's not what we really do." And then I tried to explain what the PQS did. And then I found out that in the North America market at that time, there was this relationship between the architect and the engineer, but there was no impartiality on cost until I came across a good friend of mine, Chris Sofe, who was president of GLEADS, also based in Atlanta. And he explained that they don't have a recognition for the cost management profession or the QS, even though Canada did. But what they do have is an owner's representative role, which kind of does something very similar, but not with this specificity or granular detail that the QS can deliver. So that was the opportunity that GLEADS USA, for example, saw. And even till today, 25 years later, Andrew, the scale of opportunity for cost management in North America is absolutely insane. In fact, the market by size and spend alone is 12 times the size of the UK market. If you just go to one state, there's an opportunity to be had to create value for those clients. And the North American market in particular is very cash rich, but very poor in the management of value and cost risk. So if anyone's looking for an opportunity, including myself and Patrick, because we're very, very plugged into that market now, that is a market that's going to experience serious growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And AI will have a significant role to play, I guarantee you. They will not be doing what we've been doing in the UK and largely Europe for the last 150 years. They're going to leapfrog all of that, Andrew, and pick up the AI, and they're going to run with it, I guarantee you. And we're going to help them.
So as you said, that to use that horrible phrase, that there's a lot of money on the table there to be saved, by the sounds of it.
Tons of money, but we're not driven by profit. We are ethical
Oh
guys.
no! I was thinking more for a good outcome for society and project sponsors where there's money being wasted.
It's huge, Andrew, and that's what we're focused on. We're not really focused on delivering projects as was. Our focus is to reduce the change order, the variation of projects, because if you can build a project in 5 dimensions, pre-construction, and deliver it, you'll get very little change happening through the construction phase. And that's what we want to focus on. That ability to de-risk projects by creating less of an opportunity for things to change. That's our sweet spot.
Right. I'd like to finish on a last question that kind of comes back to the skills piece, and also, at RICS, clearly we have understandable focus on the current generation of surveyors and supporting and promoting the profession, but clearly we have a very, very large agenda around getting the next generation, new talent into the profession, not just QS, but widely. And I guess I'm interested to hear your views, both of you, on obviously with your work on the Digital Twin Skills Academy. We need to get not only our current crop, if I can use that phrase, of QSs into this new world, but we need to make sure that we get that exciting new talent, that new demographic, that new generation into a profession that is evolving and becoming, I would hope, more exciting and more attractive to the next generation. What are your thoughts on how we can capitalize on this kind of paradigm shift to really get the next generation motivated to come into this profession?
Well, look, again, I could go crazy on that, but Patrick, you go first, buddy, because we talked about this yesterday, right, of breakfast.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about at the moment coming into the industry. We're very much at the front of a very tech-centric delivery approach where everything's starting to become digitized. I think when we start to look at the current generation that are coming into the industry, they've grown up learning and using technology on a day-to-day basis. So they're already ahead of the curve in embracing it, and they already have a great understanding. So their upskilling around it is quite minimal. They would probably be able to look at the way we're doing things and make us more efficient instead of the other way around. But I think their ability to use AI when they come into the professional world will be extremely powerful for them. So I think their development plans will become more enhanced. I think their growth in professional education will be fast tracked compared to, say, our generation, where and I think it can only benefit the next wave of QSs and other disciplines that are taking up the challenge going forward.
And just to add to that, Andrew, I mean, for me, we talk about 5D cost management. And for those that don't know, you've got the 3D height, width, and depth. You add time, you get 4 dimensions. You add cost, you get 5 dimensions. And we want to help clients produce 5D twins on completion of the build, right? Now, that means you bring visualization and models into play, along with all the traditional data sets from QS. But young people in that space, I've often described it as, would you like to play Minecraft and get paid for it? And a lot of young people go, yes. I'm like, there you go. And then we start the conversation, and then we'd link that to cost management, right? And all of a sudden, you have a conversation that says, how do we join, right? And that's how we've got to sell this. We've got to make it completely different conversation, always talking about value and talking about digitization and gaming. We want to bring the gaming engines to life. If you bring gaming engine into this whole mantra of delivering projects, all of a sudden, you've got a completely different way of doing it, and a different interest and a different conversation. And it's not work. You whistle as you work, as we love to do, but you've got this intergenerational piece going on. You've got experienced guys, inexperienced, young, old, and everything in the middle. And they're all trying to do the same thing. Figure out how to deliver a 5D twin on completion, but create value for the client and social value. The social value thing for us, which is again what was mentioned in the last digital transformation report. I think either yourself or Justin Sullivan, my good mate, quoted this, that quantity surveyors aren't measuring social value on projects. Right? That is going to be a big driver for us. And and that in North America is a huge driver. People are winning work on the basis of what they say they would do to deliver social value. But if you can't measure it or capture it, who's losing out? And we want to bring that to life in a 5D twin. So the young person is just, like Pat said, they're digitally enabled. They're tech natives. They get it. They can work agile. They can think agile. They can flex, and they just want to have fun, right? So this for us is a real opportunity.
Good. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Bola. And I'd love to catch up relatively soon on how we see this journey laying out, because as you said, it's a paradigm shift, and there's a huge opportunity for the profession more broadly, not just QS, but obviously, as I see, right across the life cycle. But for today, Patrick, Bola, thanks ever so much for your time, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks, Andrew.